Welcome, everybody. My name is Josh Carey of Pet Sittingology, and you are attending the Google Analytics Everything You Need to Know About Google Analytics for Pet Sitters. Now, this is going to be a really informative, a really fun, a really, I would imagine, eye opening piece of information because so many people that I speak to just think that Google Analytics is a stats program. While it is, it's great for that. But when I hear stats, I think of how many hits or how many visitors or how many page views your site is receiving. And while that's accurate, while that very well may be the case, that is such a small amount of information that Google Analytics provides you. And more importantly, it's what we do with information that really sets the tone for everything we do in life. I mean, forget about our websites, but in life, it's not just about the information we receive daily, minutely, every day in and day out. We are receiving a variety of information, but what matters is what we do with that information, how we act upon it, what changes or adjustments we make because of our new piece of information. And really, our websites are no different. We are almost, dare I say, required as business people to follow the tracks, to look at the trail, to analyze, if you will, what's happening with our website. Because quite frankly, if you don't, you're really missing out on the great changes that you should be making to not only grow your business, but to help your visitors. So the more you understand how users are interacting with every part of your website, from the broad, the general, to the minute, you are going to be able to improve that and therefore make better decisions and judgment calls with the changes that you make to your website, and you will see an increase in business. Absolutely will. So this is just me manning the ship here tonight. So if you do have any questions or comments along the way, type them into that chat box, that question box, and at some point I will periodically check. So it's going to start. I'm going to get started with showing you how to create an account. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that because that's certainly self-explanatory. We're then going to show you how to place the necessary code on your website. And if you're utilizing a WordPress powered website, it's an absolute cinch to include. If you have any other sort of website builder, it's just as easy. You place the code in one file on your site and it tracks every single page. So the first thing you want to do is simply visit google.com/analytics, and you will arrive on this home page, and it'll tell you at the top right here to either sign in or create an account. If you click create an account, it will walk you through, obviously, the short, easy Google process of creating an account. If you already have any sort of Google account, whether it's a Gmail address or any other sort of Google feature, you already have an account. So they're going to make your account creation very easy. They're going to tie it in to that already Gmail address account you may have. So that's all you're going to do. Google.com/analytics, click create an account, and you'll be underway. Here I have the account overview for my pet sitting business. This is real time. This is my actual analytics for Alicia's Animals, my pet sitting website. This is the home page here. Now, when you create an account, it should immediately bring you to your tracking code. If it doesn't, here's how you find it. You go to this home page. On the top right here, you're going to click on Admin. And here, you're going to click on Tracking Info. Scroll down. Plain and simple. This is your tracking code. Copy and paste it into the code of every page you want tracked. Now, typically you want every single page tracked. So what you would do is find your footer template, and you would put this right in your footer template. Again, if you have WordPress, there are easy behind-the-scenes plugins you can use, or if you understand how to add this code simply to the footer.php file, you can do it that way. Or again, if you have a website builder, I'm sure that they provide you with a footer code or a tracking box. Most web builders have a place that have a tracking code that say something like place code here that will assign itself to every page. So all you have to do is copy and paste this very code onto the footer file of your template or your website builder, and it will immediately begin tracking every page. So we're on the audience overview. When you log in, this is the default. Now, again, I'm going to go through a variety of reports, and I'll show you what they are, why they're valuable, and most importantly, what you're to do with this information. Now, if you've never really used analytics or don't really know what to look for, when you first get in here, you almost might feel overwhelmed with the amount of information that they provide. And while you may, during the first few weeks, look at this information and see so much of it and not really know what to do, some of it you're just going to look at and shake your head and say, oh, okay, that's interesting, and that's fine. Over time, some of the information isn't that valuable, but is more just, oh, that's interesting, okay? Like, for example, if you look on the bottom left here, it says % new visits. It's not the most important feature to know how many of your visitors are new versus returning, but it's an interesting little fact. So I'm not going to go over every single report. So if I skip a report, it simply means you can safely ignore it. There's either no data available or there's nothing we need to really do with that piece of information. So here you have your initial overview, and it defaults to 30 days out. So today is December 4th. This is showing me a graph, if you look on the top right here, from November 3rd to December 3rd. And I can see the amount of visits. Now, what's amazing is that my pet sitting business website does not have a ton of visitors. But what it does have, and what we do excel in, is being able to close the majority of our visitors into clients. That's one of the big secrets that I feel we excel at, which is sort of a whole other conversation. But if you look, you don't necessarily need a ton of visitors to make a good, solid, successful business. So this is just an overview down here of some of the good stats. And you want to look at a few key things here. Pages per visit is very important. This specifically means how many pages, on average, each person, each one of your visitors is viewing. So we are 2 3/4, almost 3 pages. That's not terrible. Now, we don't have a blog. It's important to note. Perhaps if we did, we might get more pages. So if you have a blog, you probably want people to consume a little more of your website. So you'll probably want to see that number a little higher. But 2 to 3 pages a visit is not bad. I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, that that's plenty of information for someone to make a good decision to contact you and get in touch. They might have landed on our homepage, our pricing page, and our testimonials page and said, I'm sold, let me get in touch. Then below it is also a very important statistic. It's the average visit duration. Now, I'm just going through these quickly, but when we actually go to the page, I'll get into more detail. So here we have the average visit duration. It's the average person spends 2.5 minutes on our site. I think that is fantastic. Whether you think that that sounds like a lot or doesn't sound like a lot, visit a website and spend 2.5 minutes on that site. Set the clock and watch how long that is. So 2.5 minutes is a really good amount of time. If you're seeing a minute or even less than a minute, you have a problem. And that's good because you have just discovered the problem that you have, and we're going to learn how to fix it. So next we have the bounce rate. The bounce rate, I might as well show you how they define it. Bounce rate is the percentage of single page visits, i.e. visits in which the person left your site from the entrance page. So what this means is that a bounce rate is the amount of people who have landed on your website and did not go to any other page. They found a page on your website and then immediately left your site without investigating further. So we have 44% of the people land on our website and leave. So naturally, you want a low bounce rate. I think anything under 50% is probably good. If you can get 30%, that's very good, obviously. I don't believe you're going to see much less than 30%. But if you're seeing 50, 60, 70%, obviously people are not looking at more than the initial page. And again, that's another red flag that you'll need to adjust. And that's in part what we're going to get into as well. So this just tells you a little more statistics, but let's get into the nitty-gritty. This is what you want to see. Here you have a variety of reports. You start from the top and work our way down. So we have audience. This is the overview we're on right now. Let's click demographics. We'd like to see the demographic of people on our site. Naturally, language, I'm hoping the majority are English. It says it right here, English. There happen to be 7 visits from French-speaking domain names and IP addresses. That's how they determine. So obviously, I'm going to ignore all this. Who knows how and why and when they arrived. But these columns are going to be consistent throughout every report. So you see, we have, for every report, you have the graph up here. Then you have your overviews over here. And then you have individual columns. So let me show you with a little bit of a better report these columns. Let's look at location. Location is pretty interesting. They're going to give you the macro to the micro, the big to the town, you'll see. So here, obviously, we're in the US. So of the 818 total visits for the past 30 days, 750 of them were from the US. But watch, it's going to get better because we're going to drill down even further, and this is where it gets good. So here we have some Canada, UK. These might be other pet sitters looking at the site. It's okay. But here, to give you an example of how these charts play in for each specific, we have 750 people out of 818 are from the US. Of those people who visited from the US, those people visited 2.79 pages a visit. Let's look at the people from Canada. I had 10 visits from Canada. They visited 3.3 pages and spent 2 minutes and 36 seconds on the site. See, that's specific. It also tells how many of them were new visits. Again, these columns here are going to be consistent throughout the reports. And of the people in the United States, 44% bounce rate. But look at this, Canada has a 30% bounce rate. Not much we can do with that information right now because I'm not targeting Canada, but just watch as we drill down a little further. Now I'm going to click on the United States. I run a New York City pet sitting business, so the majority are and should be from New York. That's great. 485 are from New York, 51 are from Texas, etc. But again, look at these columns and look at these statistics. Of the people in New York, they visited almost 3 pages and stayed an average of almost 2.5 minutes. The people from Texas visited less than 2 pages and stayed almost 4 minutes. So let's go a little further. Click on New York. Now we see parts of New York. New York here is New York City, which is what I want to see, the vast majority. But then it's also telling me neighborhoods. 5 people from the Bronx, 5 people from Elmhurst, 4 people from Brooklyn. How fascinating is this? So Brooklyn is a borough in New York. My pet sitting business is located in Manhattan. So if I wanted to target people in Brooklyn, I see, now granted, this doesn't give me a whole heap of information because there's only 4 people from Brooklyn, but I see that people from Brooklyn are visiting it. So I can also see that people in Brooklyn are visiting it 3 pages per visit. They are staying almost 4 minutes and 9 seconds, almost double the amount of time than the people in New York are staying. So what can I do with this? I could consider, if I see people from other towns, other areas, other neighborhoods, we have our most detailed list here of the different areas where people are visiting. So what could I do? If I had a significant number here, or even if I wanted to, I could now target Brooklyn because I know that people in that area are in fact visiting it. So why not create a page instead of targeting New York pet sitting, which might be one of my keywords? Why not now create one page that says Brooklyn pet sitting? And I might talk about if A, I don't service Brooklyn specifically, I might consider servicing Brooklyn myself. I might consider hiring an IC out in that area to service it if and when I get some traffic and some business. I might consider hiring an employee out there. I might consider finding a Brooklyn pet sitting company to say, hey, you know what? Some of my potential clients are living in your neighborhood. Do you want to, can I send them your way? And create a relationship because you have proof, So you could create an additional page that talks about Brooklyn pet sitting and talk to that person. Talk to the pet owner in Brooklyn. So I hope that this demographic opens you up to finding new markets in a sense and new ideas. Create pages that focus on those areas, those neighborhoods. Find pet sitting businesses to network and establish contacts with, or hire your own staff to service those areas. And you can see from each column how effective they are. Okay, so that's the demographic location. Now we're going to move on to behavior. We're going to go to frequency and recency. Frequency and recency. This is more just of those, wow, that's pretty interesting stats. Of the 818 visits, 615 visited the site once. 57 of them visited the site twice, etc. 33 of them visited the site 3 times. 6 of them visited the site 8 times. And here you go, 19 visited the site 26 to 50 times. Pretty interesting. That was probably me. So that's just one of those interesting reports. But when we go to engagement, this is where it gets fascinating too. Of the 818 visits, you see specifically, almost 400 of them spent less than 10 seconds on the site. right? That's the majority. So that's what I always say in all of my writings. You have between 5 and 7 seconds to grab their attention. And this is proof. Here you see 117 people, visitors, spent 1 to 3 minutes on the site. That's good. So if you see people are not spending time on your site broken down, you're going to see what we can do with that when we get to the bounce rate. Because obviously you want them consuming. You want them looking through your site and eventually making contact. So now we go to technology. This is just another one of those, oh, that's interesting. This is going to tell you what browser every one of your visitors are using. So the majority of my visitors are actually using a Safari browser. 219 are using Chrome, which is interesting. I didn't know that Chrome surpassed Firefox. So Firefox being third, and look at this, Internet Explorer is being fourth. I personally am happy to see that because I don't use or recommend Internet Explorer as a web developer. For the record, every browser, quick side note, every browser will render your web page a little differently. It's almost by their own rules. It's almost how they determine how to interpret the HTML code and output the big fancy pictures that we know as websites. So Internet Explorer has just been very buggy and very sort of difficult. So you want to make sure that your website is coming up in a variety of browsers and is looking good. There are a bunch of free tools out there that you could simulate how it looks in a variety of browsers. So at this rate, I would want to make very, very certain that my site looks, functions, and operates the way I expect it to in Safari for sure, and going down the list. And then here you see that it tells you the percentages. So almost 38% are Safari, 27% are Chrome, and that's how you read that. So that's what you're going to make with this report. You're going to just want to make sure that your website is viewing correctly the way you want it to in the most popular browsers. Now we're going to go to mobile. Mobile is extremely interesting because whether you realize it or not, and I know you probably, obviously probably have a smartphone, perhaps an iPad, but the world is evolving very quickly into mobile, and you really need to have a mobile-ready website. So let's take a look at the mobile statistics. Of the 818 visits, 669 are not using a mobile. 149 are viewing it with a mobile device. And of the ones that are not, this is actually pretty similar. 2.75 page views for those not on a mobile device versus 2.81 that are on a mobile device. But this I didn't expect. The average visit duration for people on a mobile device is 30 seconds less than people on not. And between you and me, with my own pet sitting business website, and I guess it goes back to, what do they say, that the shoemaker has terrible shoes or whatever it is. I have not put a mobile ready version of my website for my pet sitting business. I help all pet sitters do it for themselves, of course, but I haven't yet taken the time to add that functionality. So maybe that is the reason that it's not displaying as accurately perhaps as I would want from the people who are seeing it on a mobile device, and they're staying 30 seconds shorter. And interestingly, the bounce rate is less for the mobile device. So 38.93% of people on the mobile device versus a higher bounce rate of them not on the mobile device. So you just want to keep an eye on this and see what percentage of your own visitors are mobile versus not. And then we can actually see which devices they're viewing it from. Look at this. Of the 149 total mobile visits, it tells it to me right there, which if you look at the small number underneath, 18%, almost 20% of my visitors are viewing it mobile. So of the 149, 68 are seeing it on the iPhone, 58 on an iPad, and down the row here. And it also shows you, remember these columns. The iPhone average visit is 1.5 minutes. So what does that tell me? Something ain't right with the mobile version, right? I don't have a mobile version, so the iPhone people are staying 90 seconds, 1.5 minutes, and they're a higher bounce rate than the iPad and whatever this not set mobile device is. 45% are leaving. So what do you do with that information? And also, the iPad are visiting 3.5 pages. The Apple iPhone people are visiting 2.25 pages. So for some reason, the iPad is working well, but the smaller screen iPhone is not. So what would I do? I'd immediately run and get a mobile version installed on my website. That's what you can do with this information. And up here, it gives you the total averages for all mobile devices. So of the total 149, they're consuming 2.8 pages and staying all total an average of 2 minutes 16 seconds. And this is the overall bounce rate for mobile devices. And again, mobile is just going to increase. So you do want to stay ahead of that curve. Traffic sources. This is where it gets really good. This is what I love to see. Remember, we have 818 people. 73% almost are search traffic. That's exactly what I want to see. 20% direct traffic. That means people are typing it in. They are visiting it from a bookmark or that sort of a thing. Here, you have a keyword list. There was a conversation I had online on Facebook recently because this is a recent change from Google. We're looking at the keyword list here. This is a short list of, whoops, accidentally clicked. This is a short list. Here it is. This is a short list of the keywords that people have typed in to Google to find my website. But if you see, the vast majority, the number one spot in parentheses says not provided. 283. So that's almost 50% say not provided. Unfortunately, in an attempt to keep user statistics private, if a user is logged into Google, into their Google account, which if you have Gmail open, if you have YouTube open into your account, you're logged in. So if you do searches, Google's tracking that. Even if you're not logged in, they're going to track it through your computer. It's anonymous enough, but they have a very good idea of how we spend our time and what we're doing online. So in an attempt to further their privacy policies, they've recently decided to not provide data for people who are logged in. It's unfortunate because there was a time where you saw everything. But there are other ways around that. So for now, that's why, unfortunately, the vast majority you do not get. But you still get a decent amount. I see that Cat Sitter NYC, Cat Sitting NYC, Pet Sitting, people are Googling the name, Dog Boarding NYC. This is a fascinating one. Alicia's Pet Care New York, but look at this. Alicia is spelled incorrectly. We spell it with a T, Alitia. Somebody typed, or 5 people typed in, I should say, Alicia. So how did we deal with that? Because early on, we knew that this could be a situation. So simply put, we bought a variety of misspelled domain names. We bought Alicia's Animals in 2 or 3 incorrect spellings of the name to account for that. So it's good that we're at least coming up, because people search for it and we still come up for, it's called Alicia's Animals, but we come up for Alicia's Pet Care New York, which is good. So here we see keywords, and amazingly enough, go back to these columns over here on the right. We see Cat Sitter NYC is drawing, outside of the ones not provided, is drawing the second most keyword to our site. It generated 25 visits. But of those people, they read less than 2 pages and only stayed about a minute and a half. Funny enough, you take the variation Cat Sitter NYC and turn it into the number 3 spot, which is Cat Sitting NYC, which for the record is a completely different keyword in Google's eyes. So it's Cat Sitting NYC. Yes, it drew half of the visits, but those people saw 3.3 pages and stayed almost 2 minutes longer. They stayed 3.5 minutes with a bounce rate of 25%. That is amazing for statistical purposes. So what do you do with this information? What does that tell us? That I want to focus more on the keyword Cat Sitting NYC opposed to Cat Sitter, because these people are not staying enough and are not reading enough. So I'm going to focus more on Cat Sitting. I might create a new page. I might write some more articles or talk to cat sitting clients and get their testimonials specifically. Anything you can do to talk about cat sitting, to talk to cat sitting clients. Now here we have pet sitting and dog boarding. So let's look down a little bit. I have here number 6, dog boarding NYC. We do that. It's one of our big services, private in-home, in the sitter's home, dog boarding. So this specific keyword, it's not generating nearly enough as I'd be happy with, but it's one of our most profitable services. So I see here that I need to improve that. So again, what do? You create content around that word. You bring in YouTube videos that are already there and write about it. Take pictures of your dog walking clients, or if you have dog boarding clients, or if you have a dog, any sort of client, take pictures of the dogs, put them on your site, get testimonials about dog boarding, answer questions related to dog boarding. Believe me, your visitors have a ton of questions when it comes to dog boarding. All they know is the stereotypical kennel situation or vet situation. Pretend, take for granted that they have no idea what it is we do, how we do it, and how it works. There are 10, 20, 30 questions off the top of your head that you could write about on a dog boarding NYC page. And because they're only staying 50 seconds, that shows me that we do not have nearly enough content for those people. So if I want to up the amount of dog boarding clients, I better start catering more to them, because I see that they are not being spoken to. Now we go to all traffic sources. We can see here the majority are coming from Google, organic, music to my ears, right? That's what we all hope for. You want to see the number 1 spot. You want to see Google/organic in that spot. So 575 are coming from Google organic, which just means organic means the natural search results. Organic means anything that is not a paid ad within Google result. So Google people, the people who search Google, are reading almost 3 pages. I'm happy with that. That's good. Again, I don't have a blog, so 3 of my pages is good. They're staying 2 minutes 40 seconds. Very good. With a relatively low bounce rate, 41%. I'll take it. Direct none. This means people who are typing it in or otherwise revisiting from a bookmark. Pet Sittingology. And Yahoo Organic and Bing. Look at that. From Google, 575. Yahoo and Bing, 10 and 9 respectively. But they are consuming more than the Google people. Almost 3 pages, 3.5 and 5 pages. The Bing organic search results, they're reading 5 pages, staying 5.5 minutes with an astounding 22% bounce rate. Wow. So what does that mean? Maybe I should cater more to the Bing audience. What do I mean by that? Maybe I should start investigating how to up my game for Bing. I'm just thinking out loud. You know, everybody talks about Google, and yes, 99 out of 100 things that we say will improve your search rankings are across the board, but maybe I'd spend an hour investigating Bing Webmaster Tools. They have a Webmaster Tools program, just like Google does, that helps you make sure that your site is relevant in their search engine. You could do the same thing for Yahoo. So that's an idea of what you can do. Here I have a very, very low Facebook. In all honesty, we do not have a big Facebook presence, so that's expected. Yelp, only 4. You know what? There's been a lot of dialogue about Yelp recently, in the not so recent past. It always seems to come up. Just the frustration we all feel with with their reviews and how they filter it. Bottom line, if I'm seeing 4 visits from Yelp, I'm happy. Why? Because we don't really focus on that. So that's okay. I just want to point out that this is just showing the top 10. On the bottom here, you could either show more rows or you could scroll across to get your next listing. And again, what you want to do with this is cater to what makes sense. You're going to want to look at these keywords. You're going to want to evaluate these columns and see where people are consuming the most, where people are spending the most time, and where they have a low bounce rate. Those figures indicate that it's working. That even though you might have a low visitor number, of those 5 visitors here, they are consuming my site, the people who are searching for NYC pet sitters. So if I see this and I want to improve on that, I want to make more of that, because again, 5.5 pages, almost 2 minutes, and a 60% bounce rate. So I want to create more content around New York City pet sitters, and maybe talk about who we are as New York City pet sitters, what it means to be an NYC pet sitter, what their pet sitter will be, how it'll work. So you just want to take this and create content around these search terms. Speak to that person who is searching for those specific words. So on the opposite end, if I see a number that is relatively low, I might choose to improve that. So you can do it for either direction. This is going to take us into something completely different. This is going to take us into Google Webmaster Tools, which, as a side note, I do recommend you look into and you utilize. It's another free tools program from Google that helps you create a better site for Google. It's called Google Webmaster Tools. Social. This is pretty interesting. Google, as I'm sure you know, with their launch of Google Plus, they've entered the social media world. So they're interested in it, rightfully so. And they're going to want to make sure that your analytics helps you utilize this information. Now, I don't have any fancy thing on my website that gets this going. This is just all inclusive with the tracking code. There are 3 social networks that they include here: Facebook, Yelp, and Dogster, funny enough. I didn't know my site was there, but apparently there are some visitors and some links. So take a look at this and find out what you see in yours. And this just shows you what links the people from those sites landed on, what pages they landed on. The rest here we could ignore. That's traffic sources. Now we're going to move over to content. Because this, if you've noticed, I said the word content quite a bit today. Creating the content, adding more content. Within the 30-day time frame that our report defaults to, and you could easily change the default at any time on the top right here. You just click this and you can select a new date range, any date range you want. So pages on this site were viewed a total of 2260 times. Average time on page, bounce rate, etc. Now here are an overview of the most popular pages. The majority of the time, your home page, which is right here, this is the home page, is going to be your most popular page. But I always point out that it's not always the very first page that your visitor will land on. Because when a user does a search on Google, 99 times out of 100, Google will return your home page, but not always. It might return your home page, followed by your pricing page, followed by your About Us page, and the searcher might choose to visit your About Us page first. So it's important to keep in mind that do not ever take for granted that your visitors are going to land first on your home page. What I see all too often is people design a very good homepage that has all of the information. It'll have their phone number, it'll have some rates, it'll have some information, it'll have some great pictures, some testimonials, and then guess what? You move to the second page and for some reason it's almost a completely different look, a layout, a template, and sometimes I've seen the logo is not there. Sometimes I've seen no business name is present anymore. Maybe their phone number is gone. So don't take for granted that people are visiting your homepage and first and then just let that be the entire introduction. You need to replicate all of the main information, your logo, your header, your tagline, your menu bar, your sidebar, your contact information, your call to action, your footer. You want that on every single page. And the only thing that should be changing is the middle content. So keep in mind that your pages need to, in essence, stand alone. Every important piece of information like contact, etc., needs to be visible on every page because they might not land on your home page first. So, with that, the majority will, of course, but it's not always the case. So here we see, probably no surprise, the second most popular page is our pricing page, followed by our services. I love it. People want to know how much it costs before they know what we're offering, right? So let's see pricing and then go to our services. But this is that list here. That's the overview. Let's go to site content. Here we have, again, the columns, a few extra columns at this point. We have the home page. The average time on the home page A minute 45. That is pretty good. I am happy with that. A minute 45 on the homepage, I'll take it, right? That's good. Pricing page, minute and 18, etc. The testimonials page, interestingly enough, one of the least read pages. I mean, the time spent on site, the least amount of time, less than a minute. Interesting, huh? So what do you do with this information? Well, if I happen to have important information on my testimonials page, I would consider putting that elsewhere because for whatever reason, people aren't getting it. People aren't reading it. People aren't seeing it. Take time to look at how much time on each page they are spending and make sure that it's really at least a minute, right? If it's less than a minute and you see that as a common theme, what's the problem? Well, there's an inherent problem with the way that your site is laid out, or you do not have enough information, or the information as presented is confusing, or it's not attractive, or it's not speaking to the person. So you have to go back and evaluate what could increase the time on the site. What could increase the page views? You want to use, I keep saying it, you want to use content. You want to break up large paragraphs into much smaller paragraphs. 2 to 3 sentences tops, just like we're back in school. No paragraph needs to be more than 3 sentences on any page, even 1 or 2 sentences if it looks good. If you go back to my Pet Sittingology blog and look at the articles, I will write paragraphs that have 1 sentence because that's how people read, and that's how it's easy for people to read. So you really want to consider how things are laid out, how they look on the page. You want to be able to allow people to scan your content. No one is reading every single word. You want to have big headlines. You want to have small paragraphs. You want to have pictures up front. You want to have video. You want to have different bolded text. You just want to make it very attractive and appealing. You want to use white space, which just means that things aren't cluttered. This on the screen is a very good use of white space. Things are separated, wonderfully so. So consider how you present the information to your user. Because at the end of the day, let's break it down. What is the person who visits your site looking for? They're looking for answers, right? They have questions that are going off in their head. How much? How do I? What happens if? What happens then? How long have you? Do I do this? What if my dog? They have 100 questions about what we do and how we do it that you simply need to answer them. If they can find the answers, they will get in touch. If they don't get it, if they can't find the answers, if it doesn't make sense to them, if it's too confusing, if their head hurts, they're going to move on. So see how you can make your site more appealing. So now we're going to go to Content Drill Down. You can see each individual page, specifically the averages for that page. To the pricing page, 1 minute and 18 time spent on that page with a 50% bounce rate from that page. 26.68 exit. As it says, exit is the percentage of site exits that occurred from a specific page. So in other words, 26% of my visitors, once they hit the pricing page, left. Guess what? That's pretty good, isn't it? That means 75% saw the pricing page and did not leave. So that's good. I'd like to see that. That means what? My pricing page is working. That's what I would take that to mean. Here are your landing pages, which simply mean the amount of people who entered your site via these pages. So 46 people from a search term landed on the Our Services page. And of these people, they visited 1.78 pages for 1 minute and 24 seconds with an 82% bounce rate. So apparently the people who are visiting my site and entering on our services are not appreciating something, right? They are not viewing a lot, they're not staying long, and they're leaving practically right after seeing this page. 82% are seeing this one page upon entering this one page and then leaving. So what would I do? I would take a cold, hard look at that page, right? I would say, okay, what do I need to improve this page? What do I need to do to make this more beneficial to my visitors? Maybe I'm not giving them the information they want or need. Maybe I'm giving them too much information. Maybe I can put some pictures. Maybe I can put a video. Maybe I can record an audio welcome and say, hey, thanks for visiting our services page. We aim to make this process as simple as possible. We offer a variety of services. We'll watch cats, dogs, etc. So maybe that will enhance the page. But I certainly would want to do something to cut down on that huge bounce rate from this page. Exit pages. Same sort of thing. The pricing page had 99 people exit. Site speed. As you know, Google has over 200 signals that they call, pieces of their algorithm that determine where a web page ranks in their results for any given search term. They have said that one of the signals they use to determine the relevancy of a web page is site loading speed. Why? Because Google's #1 goal is to provide their search users with the most perfect, relevant, amazing web page that they think is out there. So what do you think would happen if you have a website that takes forever to load? Obviously, your user isn't going to stick around. It's not creating a good user experience. So why would Google show that in the results? So that's why site speed is important. One of the biggest determining factors is bulky, heavy images. These phones today take pictures that are so large that you cannot put a picture directly from your phone without optimizing it onto your website. It's just enormous. It'll slow everything down and it doesn't help. It doesn't make for a good user experience. You can Google image optimizer online free, something like that. There's a ton. All you do is upload your bulky, heavy image and it will crunch it up and make it more web ready for you. Free service online. You can easily find that. So, site speed. You want to make sure that your pages and your site is loading well. This is great. 1.24 seconds. Average page load time. 1 second. That's the way you want it. That's great. Nothing I need to or want to do with that. Look for yourself. If yours is good, you're good. If it's bulky, if it's heavy, see what pictures are there. See what web developer you're using, what website builder. WordPress should never be a problem. That does create good, clean code that assists in quick load time. Some of the other web tools I'm not such a fan of because they create very bulky, difficult for Google to understand HTML code, so that might slow things down. It might cause errors. So keep an eye on that. Page timing. This is very intriguing. Again, these are the things you're just going to look at once and just make sure it's on track and then move on. The pricing page, our services page, under a second. Home page, 1.72. Doubling back for a moment, under audience, under visitors flow. This is a fascinating chart they provide. I mean, this is just incredible. This is Google Analytics visitors flow. And what it is a chart, almost like a flow chart, that shows you for every single visitor, you can track which page they entered on and what pages their journey took them on. So for example, we're just going to focus on the United States. It also shows you all the other people who entered. But let's start with the people from the United States. Of the people in the US, of 750 of them, 687 of them landed on the home page. And of those 687 that landed on the home page, 170 of them then went to the pricing page. From the home page, 139 of them then went to the Our Services page. 50 of them went to employment. And here you can see 8 more pages if you wanted. So, and then of the 687 that went to the pricing, 93 went back to the home page. But 70, I'm sorry, of the 170 that went from home to pricing, you see here, then 36 went to Our Services and drifted off. Here, the ones that went to Our Services, then 70 went to pricing, 21 went to testimonials. These people who went from home, services, testimonials, and then pricing, that's good. I like that path. Go home, check our services, read our testimonials, then check out our pricing. That seems like a good one. But I think this is just fascinating. You could see the exact route people are taking. So what do you do with this information? Well, if enough people are not visiting a page that you have important information on, or relevant information on, or information that you think will help them make an informed decision, if you're not seeing enough people take that path or visit that page, you're going to want to reevaluate where that information is sitting. You might want to bring some of that information front and center, because we think that everything on a web page or everything on our website is obvious. Believe me, through Pet Sittingology, I have a ton of information, a lot of products and services, and yet I'll get emails and questions that are asking me things that I think are so obvious, but I can't take anything for granted. So it comes down to you. If people aren't seeing the information, you have to make it more clear. And this is the only way you're going to determine what information is being seen, how it is being seen, and what they are doing with the information they are receiving. So it's sort of like a tennis match. You created your web page with the pages, the structure, the information. You then install Google Analytics, and you then see how people are using the product, i.e. your website. And if it's not being used the way you wanted it to or intended it to, you have to make some adjustments back to the drawing board. So the bottom line is always serving your users with the information they want and need to make an informed decision to hire you as their most trusted, loving, caring, professional pet sitter, that they could sit back and say, honey, I found the answer to our prayers. It's this pet sitter in so-and-so town. Thank God we found them. Let's call them up. They are fantastic. Believe me, every one of your website visitors want nothing more than for you to be the answer to their prayers. They don't want to sit online searching and evaluating and comparing and meeting and calling and email. They want your website to wow them, and they want to get all the information, so they say, yes, how do I pay? Can I please hire you now? And this is really the way that you make that happen, by giving them all of the information they require, by providing them what they need. Remember, they're entering your site with questions. Simply put, whether they're conscious or subconscious questions, they have 100 of them. Least of which is, can I trust this person? Will I like this person? Will my cat like this person who's finicky? Will this person be able to care for my cat who is diabetic, or give her a pill, or be able to run to the vet in 100 questions? So our job is to make sure that our website gives them all of that relief and all of that end of search desire. Again, that's all every one of your web visitors are looking for. They want you to be the answer to their prayers. So hopefully you can use Google Analytics to get a little more insight into what your users are doing and what they want, and simply give it to them. It doesn't have to be with a blog. Again, I don't have a blog on Alicia's Animals. So it could be pages of content. That's all we have. Many pages of content. So when I wanted to write about, like this page called While You're Away, I go through the steps of what happens while they're away and we're watching their pet. I just added a new page. It wasn't a blog post. It wasn't an article. It was just a page on my website. So figure out the easiest way to add content and give your users what they want. It's sort of like I said, a tennis match. Go back and forth with them, analyze, evaluate, and you should be in much better shape. So I hope that this has helped. I hope that this puts you in an empowering situation. I hope this gives you plenty to work on. But again, please do not get overwhelmed, because we all know what happens when you get overwhelmed. You could become a little frozen, and there is a lot of information here. But start with the basics. Just take a week or two after you install it and just go through, review this video. It should make more and more sense once you get used to what's on these pages. Once you understand what these percentages mean and what's important and what's not important, then you'll be able to take educated guesses. And worst case scenario, shoot me an email. Let me know what one of your reports say. Say, hey, I see that this is happening, X, Y, and Z. What do you think I should do about that? Or I was considering doing this. Is that what that means? Or I see a low rate for mobile. What should I do? Anything. Don't get overwhelmed. Make the necessary changes. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank you all for spending the evening with me. Again, I hope this was helpful. I always love to keep the conversation going. Best way is to post on facebook.com/PetSittingology. That's where you can find me the quickest and easiest. And I'd love to hear what you thought as well, if this was helpful. And again, I thank you all for spending the evening together. Keep successfully moving forward, and we'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.